Hi, I'm Mo. Today we're going to take a break from Sci-Fi September and we're going to talk about all the series I am currently in the middle of. Now, I am choosing to make this list based on series that I have read more than one book of, or I have physically some of their books. Does that make sense? So like, for instance, there are a few sci-fi series that I want to continue, like the Dune series by Frank Herbert, but I don't physically own the next book in that, and I haven't made any headway reading the audio. And then also, I really want to continue the Murders of Molly Southbourne series, but I've only read the first one in that, and I don't physically have any of the other books, and I also haven't made any attempts to get the audiobooks. Whereas last year I read one of the books in the Inspector Thanet series by Dorothy Simpson, and I was planning on continuing the series if I found more of the books, and I happened to find 3 more of the Inspector Thanet books. So even though I've only read one book in this series, I have 3 others that I can delve into at any time, so I plan on reading those and continuing those. These are my favorite kind of series, my favorite kind of cozy mysteries. It has to do with a dry British police detective and the mysteries that he solves in and around his small towns in England. I'm not sure what sets these books apart from other mysteries of this ilk, but I am anxious to find out. The first book that I read, 6 Feet Under, was kind of in the middle of the series, and it also had a kind of distressing cat death in it. I might not have read that book if I'd known that there was a disturbing animal murder in it. So I hope that the other ones in the series don't have anything like that. I hope that that was just a kind of outlying shocking moment. Another series that I've only read one book in, but I now do have multiple other books, is the Jersey Shore Mystery series by Beth Sherman. So I picked a random mystery, cozy mystery. It was the 3rd in the series, up out of a free little library. My husband was actually the one who spotted it, and he spotted it because it was a Jersey Shore mystery. The entire series happens to take place in the town next to where I live. So they do fictionalize this town, but it's pretty easy to tell that it is based on Ocean Grove, New Jersey, and they even reference the town that I live in next door under a fake name. This series of books follows a screenwriter and freelance writer who has lived in this little town all her life. They call it Oceanside Heights. She gets involved in mysteries, and through her writing abilities, she's able to help people solve the mysteries. I mostly definitely want to read this series of books because it's set where it is set, but I also did enjoy the cozy mystery vibes of this series. It was, nothing amazing, certainly, but good enough to continue in the series. So I purchased the first 2 in the series from a used online bookstore. A series that I've been reading for quite a long time now, and I actually only have a few books left in to read, is Petey James' Adam Dalgliesh series. So Adam Dalgliesh is at first an inspector and then moves up to superintendent, and you kind of follow his life over very many years. You follow his kind of tragedy when his first wife dies, and then on to some love interests. You follow the different kinds of cars he uses and how he looks at crime and how he brings up his murder squad to be just as good detectives as he is. I really like these books. I really love Petey James as an author. She's probably, this might be blasphemy to say because I do like Agatha Christie as well, of course, but she's probably my favorite cozy mystery author. And I have read almost all of her books. I think I only have about 7 or 8 Petey James books in total to do. I do have a Petey James reading vlog that I will link down below if you want to see my thoughts on 3 genres from one author. The Adam Dalgliesh series, I only have about 3 or 4 books to go, and I recently found 2 of those at local book sales. So they're the longer ones, coincidentally, a little bit of a chunker, but I'm excited to get to these at some point. I do feel myself like savoring them a little bit, so I don't know how soon I'm going to continue on in this series. Speaking of Agatha Christie, I don't know how many more of the Miss Marple series I have before I finish her old lady detective series, but the next book that I have to read in that series is A Pocket Full of Rye. I have a physical copy of this book, but I've been reading these all on audio, and they're so much fun. I have taken a small break from reading these just because they were starting to kind of blur together a little, and I wanted to make sure that I was really like paying attention to each book in the series. These follow Jane Marple, who is a old biddy, and she lives in St. Mary Mead, where she keeps an eye on anything and everything that happens in town, and when there's a mystery to be solved, she not only has an idea who is responsible, but she is often called on by friends, police, and locals to help by bringing her insights. I love this series, and I'm so glad that I started reading them. I had seen the BBC TV versions of them before, but reading them is just so special because Agatha Christie is so hilarious, and I find this series is funnier than I thought it was going to be. I definitely plan to finish these, and then I probably will start the Poirot series after that. I have read the first Poirot book, which is Agatha Christie's other main detective, and I did enjoy that one, but they certainly weren't as endearing as Miss Marple. Another British writer that I only have 1 book left to go is Colin Dexter. He writes the Inspector Morse series, and I grew up watching Inspector Morse and Inspector Lewis on the BBC, and I love that series so much. So when I saw that all of his Inspector Morse books were on one of my audio subscriptions, I picked them all up. They were all really cheap, and I just bought them all. It turns out that they were abridged versions, which isn't ideal. I have 1 book left in the series from that purchase, and I am going to eventually read that last book. My plan is to get those Colin Dexter books physically at some point and probably reread them. I do like them enough, and since I've been listening to the abridged versions, I definitely think reading the unabridged versions will be worth it. Inspector Morse is cantankerous and angry and arrogant, and I love the relationship with him as he makes really harebrained attempts to solve the crime and plays off his Sergeant Lewis, and between the two of them, they always do solve the mystery. Although Morse has his issues, he is a brilliant detective. It's bittersweet to finish this series, but I'll be happy to finish it and then keep my eye out for those physical versions. Another series that I picked up totally randomly, ended up enjoying, is Julie Smith's Skip Langdon series. Skip Langdon is a police officer in the New Orleans Police Department, and she has a hard time in the 90s being respected as a female police officer, being respected as a person in a larger body, being respected as someone who comes from a rich background, but she is really good at solving crimes and making connections with the people involved in those crimes. I think Skip Langdon's strengths as a detective are that whatever her prejudice and whatever her backgrounds might be, she tries to put those aside and really get into the headspace of the people involved in the cases. And she tries to see them all, whether she likes them, whether she doesn't like them, whether she thinks they might be guilty or not, as people first and suspects second. I really like this series, and I was happy to pick up the second book in the series. I've already read the first book second, and then I read the 4th or 5th book first, so now I'm going to read the second book when I have time. The last series that I want to talk about is the Fletch series. I started reading these because we did watch the Fletch movie last year, and this year I've read 2 in the Fletch series so far. I do have a bunch of the other physical books, but not the next one by publication date. I'm waiting to read more of those until I pick that one up, and since I look for books secondhand, it might be a little while. These follow Fletch, who is an investigative reporter, and in the first book he is out on investigation, trying to solve mysteries for his newspaper, but mysteries are kind of falling into his lap as well. And similarly, the second book has him investigating something for his fiance when another mystery kind of comes his way. I'm hoping that the other books in the series kind of follow that trajectory and he has like 2 mysteries per book. I think that would be really fun, and I like the idea that one of the mysteries he gets involved in and one of the mysteries involves him. These are an interesting series set in the 70s, and I'm excited to continue on with them. I think those are all the series that I'm in the middle of right now, and yeah, they were all mysteries basically. Those are definitely my favorite genre of book, and they're also definitely my favorite genre of series. I like to see a progression of character over time. I don't know whether I would be really into series of other genres. If you have a series that you think I would really love, either a mystery series, a sci-fi series, let me know in the comments below. And let me know what your favorite series of all time is. I think mine probably are the Adam Dalgliesh series, but I also really love Edgar Rice Burroughs' A Princess of Mars series. Thanks so much for joining me and keeping track of all the mystery series that I'm reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.